Welcome to Political No Brainer, the podcast where we move past winner takes all politics and into real conversations. I'm Jeff Rabinowitz. This season, we're bringing in voices from all sides to challenge assumptions, bridge divides, and build a better understanding of today's biggest issues. Today, I'm joined with one of my favorite guests, Daryll Blackhall, president of Orlando Workforce Academy, an incredible option for kids that didn't necessarily have a great experience in their K through 12 experience, but have the chance now to get a real high school diploma, not a GED. And I want you to just jump right in and talk about it.
Oh, thank you. So I appreciate your time and thanks for having me in that great introduction, Coach. I appreciate you. Uh, well, Workforce Advantage Academy, of course, is in the scope of things, we're still considered an alternative school, but when it comes right down to it, we are just like you said, we're that school that still tries to give those 11th and 12th grade kids another chance, another bite at the apple, I like to say, and trying to get that high school diploma, right? So they don't have to go the GED route, or they don't have to drop out, right? To secure that job, because a lot of our kids are making that hard decision today about, man, do I stay and help mom and keep the lights on and help pay the water bill, or can I continue on down this educational path? And I think for us to say pick A or B, kid, it's just kind of it's outlandish, right? So we give them that opportunity where they can make the choice. I can still work and I can still get my real high school diploma, traditional, yeah, high school diploma. So we have been, man, we've been growing. I mean, 21 years for us, Trip. But we've been slowly growing. We're adding two teachers this year, just trying to accommodate the need, right? We're a 501(c)(3, man. We're not a conglomerate. We're not a company-based charter school. And what we do is we work with all the other 22 high schools here in Orange County, and we work tight with those guidance counselors who are like, "Hey, look, this young person is either working too hard, or they're not coming to school enough, or they're already 18, they're going to be a fifth year senior, and we just don't have the space for them at our traditional high school." So but I think that maybe they're starting to figure it out. So that's what we do. We help them find their path. 21st century, coach, that most of the paths, except for those new AI paths and those new technology paths, have already been walked. So if you want to come in and be a plumber, man, that path has been walked for the last 2,500 years. I think we can get you down that path. If you want to go to Orange Technical College, man, I know that path. I can get you there, right? That's really what we do, right? We're gonna be there with a smaller classroom size to get you your math, English, science, to get you closer to that traditional high school diploma. But we're also gonna try to help you with those life skill pieces. So I want you to be able to graph a line, absolutely. But I also want you to be able to buy a car, protect your credit score, pay your taxes, and understand how the system works. Life is waiting for you right outside that door when you graduate. And if you're not ready, it's waiting for you with a bat, right? But if you're ready for it, then life can be your friend, and they'll end up at, just like your screen behind you, they'll end up on that beach, and hopefully they won't be 90 when they're doing it. I'm trying to get kids to start investing in themselves early so they can retire at 40 or 50 and spend those good years, those quality years, doing some things, watching their grandkids, playing with their kids, doing those kind of things. Our mantra, or one of the things we talk about, is the difference between rich people and poor people is a plan, right? And so we gotta have that plan that's 1 year out, 2 years out, and instead of just what am I doing this weekend, right? So we just have to change the way we think. And so we spend a lot of time, just trying to reprogram how we approach problems, how we approach life. And that's what we do. And on top of that, we're really just a high school, right? So we just add an extra wrinkle of difficulty so we can have the next generation be ready, man. Not living in your mom's basement. For those kids who are living in their mom's basement, man, I ain't mad at you. But I'm just saying there's a way to be successful and your mom doesn't even have to be involved.
Well, there's so many things to unpack from just that you just said. Let's start with we're just a high school. The high school is the most significant part of your life. It really is where you're starting. And for some kids, it is even more significant since they didn't have a father like me or you or like we had
Right.
that really showed them a way. So when we have your high school, we keep talking about it in such a way. So first of all, let's take it from the top. You don't have a farm system. You don't have a K through 12 system where the kids are coming from middle school to your
No, sir.
school. So, like you said, you're communicating with the 21 schools in Orange County and you're talking about individual kids. Well, every kid is an individual. So, when you're actually talking about each kid that you're bringing in, you understand why you're bringing them in and you're doing a beautiful thing for that one kid. And you know as well as I do, you've told me all sorts of education people have reached out to you. Can we expand this program? And
Mm.
like you said, it's hard to, just like you said, you added two teachers this year. That's a milestone. Well, in order to expand the system, in order to open a facility just like yours, one more, you would have to hire 40. I don't know how many teachers you have
Oh,
at your
yeah,
facility.
absolutely. 20 at least.
At least 20 and administrators. So
Yeah.
you're getting on the so and to say that we can't do it is just something I don't accept. But the other thing that I think we can do it, and I think we need to do it, and I think we also need to rethink some of the schools that are traditional schools and make it more towards your model of a school, not necessarily just keep adding more of yours. But so one thing I discussed with a person, her name is Laura Lucra, and she's the president of the Independent Center. So she's all about independent candidates. And like we always talk about, it's either red or blue in America. You're in or
Right.
you're out. You're with us, you're not with us. But these are independent candidates. She brought to my attention, she said, there's this kid on TikTok, this girl, young girl, entrepreneur, who is in a used wedding dress business. And she's also fashioning them. And she's doing really I said she could be the next Spanx. Remember that girl that created Spanx, where and she's a
Absolutely.
billionaire now?
Man,
And
the
I
Under
said,
Armour guy started in his basement.
right, the undergarment, exactly. So
Yeah.
when we think about these kids that are coming from your school, and they are just like you said, they got two choices. Generally, they have two choices. Are they going to go to work and leave their family behind, or are they going to stay with their family and leave their education and their future behind? That's really how
Right.
to. So I said, look, we've got Daryl's school. Essentially, it's a model. Now this kid comes out of he can't do no more school. He's done your program. He did get his high school degree, and he's also got a skill, a plumbing skill. So
Right.
I said, how about providing an option for this kid, not for a college loan? How about providing this kid an option for a small business loan to start his own plumbing business? So instead of a because I was listening to a guy named Robert Reich. He was worked for every president. Bill Clinton. He was Bill Clinton's labor secretary. He said
Okay.
Jeff Bezos had this unfair advantage. His parents lent him 250 grand. Okay, how about we start lending our kids 250 grand to start a
Right.
small business? I mean, what's
Absolutely.
the unfair advantage? He had parents that cared. He had parents that believed in him. I believe in every child. I believe I've worked in the restaurant. My whole bowl of rice has been restaurants. I know kids that are great kids, super intelligent. They tell me the answer to problems sometimes when we were working together. But they
Absolutely.
never got a break. They never got all they ever got was me saying, "Here's a job for $15 an hour. Go jump on the steam room and
Go get
wash
him,
dishes
kid.
today."
Yeah.
Yeah. So how about we? So that's just something I always think about is how we can reconfigure all the things because we are missing so many. I the other day I was talking to Temple Grandin. She's an incredible scientist, she's autistic, an incredible
Uh-huh.
scientist, an incredible professor. And she talked about how all the challenges in her life, but one thing came together. Like we say, life is a bunch of lefts and a bunch of rights. Well, every left and every right was pretty much the right turn for her. But if she had taken a different turn any which way, she'd have been just another autistic kid with no future.
Right.
But so how do we keep missing out on these opportunities? And that's my question to you. In a perfect world, if you had everything you needed, how would you expand and in what directions? And
Well, I think that for us, brick and mortar is the right answer, because a lot of our kids are coming from computer-based schools, or the other part is just they are bored. They are, whatever. They're in these classes, and for us, we need to build that relationship. We need to be face to face with them, to be able to tell them, one, the one thing that we do really well is we convince kids that they can, right? Because they hear it all the time. Oh, you can't do that. You're not big enough. You're not strong enough. You're not smart enough. You're not whatever. And the truth of the matter is, they need more people that says, "Well, get out there and give it a shot, kid." And that is something that I think my teachers and our staff does really, really well. Um, and we need more coaches out there, right? We need more of those people that are building those relationships, and we need a little bit of less negative Nelly. I know that a lot of folks say, but coach, it's just real, so many businesses fail or whatever. Well, of course they do, right? Because of lack of capital or whatever. But I said, you still got to get out there and take a bite and take a swing at it, right? I mean, what Jordan or Gretzky said, you're going to miss all the shots you never take, right? So you have to be unafraid to fail, right? Because as long as you're not like skydiving, don't be afraid to fail. You want to get out there and you want to take what you do know. Don't be afraid to ask those tough questions. Don't be afraid to say, I don't know anything about this, about investing, or I don't know how to pay my own taxes or whatever. And find that help, or find that person who is an expert in there, and don't be afraid to hire them to help you, right? To do those kind of things. So for us, we need a face-to-face place, and somewhere where it's easily accessible. Most of like our school is close to a bus route, so we get our kids on Lynx buses, because one, it's a life skill, right? Even if you don't have a car, if mom can't take you, Uber's expensive. So I'm going to provide you with a bus ticket. Now you're going to have to put the app on your phone, Chico, and you're going to have to figure it out, right? And then that class starts at 8. I need you to figure out what time I'm going to have to get up. You're going to have to start doing some big boy things, right? To make sure that you're getting the education you need. But I said, you can also use that bus ticket to go to work. You can use it to go see grandma. I don't care what you use it for, but you got to use it to come to school, right? So we got to have that transportation link. Also, too, this model works in cities with, um, um, wow, that are big enough to support jobs of a wide variety, because our students are coming to us. I mean, coach, we're only 300. We're not even that big, right? So,
right.
but you would be surprised. I mean, I know you wouldn't, but our kids have this wide um, dreams and goals of what they want to do, even for their first job, right? They Not all of them want to work at McDonald's. Not all of them want to work at Academy or at the auto parts store, but a lot of them do, right? They want to say, I want to get in that restaurant business. I want to get I want to get into that retail. And how do I start, man? And so we try to find what they're passionate about to begin with, and then we get them in those places. So I really think the things that would help anyone who would like to take this model and run with it would be uh, find a teaching staff that that cannot forget that every student is your customer, and you have to treat them like that, right? You have to treat them like, yes, little Timmy's come in and tell me to piss off this morning, but you know what? Okay, now I got to find out why little Timmy's mad, right? What happened?
Yes.
Why did he come in here? Because if that's not his usual behavior, now we got to figure out something else, and that's that relationship piece. And then you got to have that space, right? Where I'm going to teach you face to face. I'm going to look at you in the lights, and I'm going to make sure you understand why X equals 6. And then we also got to have that transportation piece and then that job piece, because that's what really makes this model work, is having all those pieces available to us, right? So, our founders of this school, really put this together, 20 years ago, and so all I can do is come in, or all not all I can do, but what I do is I come in and I'm protecting this legacy, right? Because they really have a, we have a wall of thousands of kids who have graduated from this program, from this campus. And so I go in every day and I say, I want to make sure that I represent all of these faces well, not just our founders, but also these young people, because they're the ones that have put us where we are today. So yes, we're successful. We did real well with school grades came out. Man, we did real well. So and these kids that come to us, man, they are like the devil's rejects, right? They're reading at a middle school level, and for us to come out, like we came out with like a B this year, right? So for us to perform there, we had to take these middle school kids and get them to where they can perform and pass that fast best test, and get through that biology, get through that American history, and get them through those tests. And it all starts with that reading piece. So we all
Right.
started the remedial reading piece. We talk about vocabulary on day one, right? Because if you have a strong vocabulary, you're going to be able to read better. You're going to be able to speak better. You're going to be able to hold people's attention better. If you come in and you all you know is slang, or all you know is street terminology, man, people aren't going to take you serious, right? And I want that person that wants to invest $250,000, because Trip, every person is a brand. Man, that's my philosophy, right? Every person is a brand. You are representing your brand. So how are you going to come? Are you going to come all looking jacked up with your pants hanging down? No, no, no. If that person's going to invest in you, why? Watch the NFL draft. Watch the Major League Baseball draft. You don't see any of those kids looking like thugs. You don't see, no, they are in a suit and a tie, because all of a sudden people are going to invest in them, and they do not want to look like something that just walked out the hood. And that's the way I treat our kids. I'm like, man, no, we're going to look the part. This is why we're a dress code school, right? We're going to wear our polos, we're going to wear our khaki pants, and we are going to look like we belong in this world, right? We're going to look like we belong in this business world. So, you start with these lessons, and you start to get these young people to believe and invest in themselves. And and it changes lives, coach. It it matters. And on graduation day, when you see all those parents crying, when you see that parent come up to you and say, you realize that little Timmy's the first one to graduate in our family. Trip, this is the 21st century. We've been graduating kids in this country for 200 years. And
Right.
so for somebody to say, no, this is the first time in my family that anyone's achieved this mark, and I wanted to just hug you and thank you, right? So And that's not a pat. I mean, I'm not trying to pat us on the back. I'm just saying it matters, right? It matters. And any person, any other human, any other adult can play that role in a young person's life, right? Instead of just rolling the ball out there, right? Let them go, man. Give them some instruction. Run the play for them a couple times. Let them see what it looks like. And then be able to let them pick it up and go from there. Sure, they're going to fall down. Sure, they're going to fumble. Sure, they're going to do these things. But make sure that you provided enough knowledge that they know I need to get up from here. I need to pick this ball back up. I need to do these things because, if I don't try, then I'll never fail. But that's just a crappy philosophy, right? So you need to know that failing is just part of the game, right? And I guess that's why I was a baseball coach because, man, we fail. We're only successful one out of every three times we even go to the plate, right? So you can't be afraid of failure, and then you just build from it, learn from it. I either win or I learn, right? So I've got to be able to take that in.
Well, they say Reggie Jackson was the guy that struck out the most, but he also hit the most home runs too. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so I mean, right there. But let's just okay. So we talking about baseball. We know kids that get to your level of coaching were better players when they were in baseball camp when they were kids. They start in baseball camp when they were kids. They're good baseball. They may not be pros ever,
Right.
but you know what you're getting when you're getting them. They know, and that's the same thing with what you just said about sending them off from school. I want to see the government lending kids $250,000 to start a business. I've seen programs like that. I've seen successful business owners receive $150,000 PPE loans, payment protection loans, payroll protection loans, and everything was forgiven. And truthfully, some of those employers weren't even providing jobs that were worth protecting. It's a
Right.
bunch of so I've seen our government squander money. So when we talk about if we lend these kids $250,000, what's the failure rate going to be? Well, there's going to be a failure rate, but there's
Right.
also, if we prepare our kids in high school for the things to expect about starting a small business and what are the best small businesses to start, the failure rate's going to be significantly lower, and we're going to see an enormous return on our investment. They're not going to turn to crime. They're not going to be unemployed,
Nope.
and that's how. So today we have this whole conversation, and not to get into politics about rhetoric. We're essentially at the point where the administration in power can close the U.S. Department of Education. Now, I've never had a good feeling about the Department of Education. I don't think it does. I don't know what your feeling is. That is one of the questions I'm leading to, but
Okay. Yeah.
but I thought instead of just throwing these informed employees out on the street, let's turn them into administrators. Turn them into the next Daryll Blackalls. Let's just like they're talking about moving the FBI agents to field offices rather than a building in DC where there's essentially no crime and all the agents there. Let's turn these employees into administrators of alternative charter schools or alternative state schools if we get the program to be that size. But so one, my question is, what do you feel about anything you feel about any impression you've ever gotten of their all your years of education from the Department of Education? And is it a viable idea that I don't know what's going to happen in the next 4 years, but if the next administration comes in and says, "Hey, let's bring back some of these employees. Let's kind of rethink how we dismantled something that could have been utilized better, how we could have reconfigured it in a better way."
Well, thank you. That's a great question. Trip, um, I, obviously I'm an alternative school guy, right?
But you weren't
So
always though, right?
I'm not a big fan of standardized anything, right? I have seen since the induction of the Department of Education where we went from number one in the world to somewhere what around 21st. So there's something we're not getting. And America is good at one thing. We will throw money at the problem, right? So so we have done a lot of that. So what are we not doing? What we're not doing is we're not talking to teachers enough, right? So I think and first off, I think dismantling the Department of Education is ridiculous. I think, those people are super smart, but they really need to spend a little bit more time in the field and talk to their teachers, right? And have administrators not just go in and visit their teachers with an iPad to make sure their lesson plans on the board and all that foolishness. That has nothing to do with learning, right? And I think we need to get back to our basics, right? We need to get back to make sure our kids can read. We need to make sure that we can do that. And I think the Department of Education still has value. Um, I think it might need to be restructured, right? Because I think there's kids with IEPs, there's kids with learning disabilities, and that was my thing is that not all kids learn the same, right? So instead of standardizing or the testing piece, I think just doesn't fit because in a lot of like education classes, they tell you, man, scaffold your lessons or teach to the middle of the room or whatever it is. But then at the end of the day, we still give a standardized test. And it's like, well, what the hell are we doing? Right? I mean, you're telling the teacher, look, we got to meet each kid where they are. But then at the end of the day, if they don't pass this one test, they can't graduate. And it's like, that's Bush League, man. So we have got to figure out a way where we can utilize the people that are in those places, right? The DOE, look, it probably does have a lot of people that maybe go in and just read lesson plans all day and and they don't pay attention and they go on, right? Sure. But there's a lot of people with a lot of educational value still at the DOE and there's a lot of good ideas. And I think when you say no, we just need to dismantle it and throw it out, what you're quitting on something that I think is still very successful, right? Um, and don't throw that baby out with the bathwater, right?
Right.
I think that there's a lot of quality people in there. Now, will these people be able to go and find jobs? Absolutely, they will, because the critical need that all schools have right now. Now, the problem is are we going to be able to afford to hire these teachers, these special um, the special needs teachers, the high demand teachers, the math and English, science folks that we're always looking for. So the department has a place, and I really hate to think that they're really considering closing it down. I think maybe it does need to be revisited and they need to think about how can we be better? And I think they need to get more and more teachers involved. Because those people are in the classroom every day. Those are the kids that dude, they're getting assaulted by fourth graders. What can we do at this point, right? What can we do to support those teachers? What can we do to um, to change the structure maybe of education? Do you say, look, little Timmy, this is world history. Welcome aboard. Now, I'm going to present you with the information and whatever, but little Timmy only comes once every 9 weeks. And then, so when little Timmy decides, oh, damn, I should have came to school last year. Now, do we still provide that class for free? Or then now we're going to ask the parent, hey, man, it's going to cost you $50 to take that world history class again. So that way there's a little skin in the game now. Now you're going to make sure little Timmy comes to school. There's little things that I think that we could do differently that that I think if we left those smart people up to the DOE and they worried about education, they worried about reading, math, science, and not, oh my goodness, did this child who hit somebody with a chair, did they get the right due process? No, 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 no. Worry about education, right? Let the teachers go back to teaching curriculum. Let them go back and I mean they went to college for something. History, math, whatever. Let them teach their subject. let them give them more free reign in their classroom with their curriculum, right? I mean, I mean, these people are professionals, and we still ask them to turn in a lesson plan every week so we can what double check to make sure that's what they're doing, and then they ask us as administrators to make at least 3 visits a week, and in every classroom or whatever. And it's like, man, you've already gave me a lesson plan, so you already told me what you're doing, and then I'm supposed to come in there 3 times a week just to make sure that you're doing what you told me you do. Come on, man. At some point, you just have to start trusting teachers, trusting administrators, and let folks work without without a whole lot of ground, with a whole lot of checks and balances. Because folks will perform if you allow them to get out there and do it.
Well, absolutely. And you know that when you think of teaching, first off, this is the one point I want to, when you think of teachers and teaching, there is no money. They're not going to become teachers for this huge income. So you know you're
No,
hiring the right person. You know there's a dedication bit there. You know they want to be a teacher because they want to be a teacher and to be
right.
a good teacher. And then the other thing is one thing that they've created is that they essentially caused, I guess you would say, is to teach the test. You say if they do well on their test, you're going to give the teacher a bonus. Well, hell,
A bonus.
just
Yeah.
a natural instinct is let me teach them the test. Let me
Oh,
teach them
absolutely.
hit the
Why
test
wouldn't you?
hard. Right. So you've already eliminated their ability to do a really unique, good job.
Right.
You've taken that. They can't go home to their family and say, "We're going to be living on all I get is my base pay because I'm not going to comply with this teach and test theory."
But then
No,
your
they're going to.
kids aren't being going to be, they're going to feel like they're not successful either because they weren't successful on this one standardized test. You know,
Right.
when you ask a goldfish to climb a tree, right? And he's going to feel like, oh man, I'm worthless, but he's a great goldfish. You know what I mean? He's going to be doing whatever goldfish do. But you ask him to do something goldfish don't do, then he's going to feel like a failure. And that's the same way it is with these kids. You just can't do that, right? You can't expect all these creatures to act the same. And
Not at
so
all.
and so you just have to, and at some point, we got to wake up and realize that, look, we need to just set the bar wherever it is and say, come get it. And then expect our teachers to say, no, this is where I set the bar. Look, I'm old enough, Trip, where like I didn't have to take a FCAT, or I didn't have to take that was, man, that my kids had to worry about that. I didn't. So the system believed, I'm going to call him out, Mr. Dover, my math teacher who dragged me through algebra in high school. Uh, they believed that Mr. Dover was professional enough to do what he was entrusted to do and teach me algebra. And without Mr. Dover, I would not be sitting in this chair right now. And so I don't know where he is. I don't even know if he's still living because I'm old. But they trusted him to teach his class, right? And so we don't do that anymore, right? If you're an Algebra 1 teacher, God knows, I'm going to tell you right now, I love you, right? Because you not only are you going in there and you're battling with these kids to do algebra every day, then at the end of the year, we're going to make them take this algebra test. And if they don't pass it, they can't graduate. Now, I know they got to be in your class because you asked them to do everything that was in the curriculum. But the problem is that now we've taken the teacher out of the mix. Sure, you got to be in your class, but you didn't pass this Algebra 1 test that we put together, the standardized test. So sorry about your luck. So it's crazy that forces the teacher to go, look, man, I've got to get you through yx equals 6, rise over run, and do these kind of things, and I got to get you through this. I know you're struggling, but little Timmy over here, he's not struggling, so I'm going to make sure he gets through because I got to get enough of you to pass this test so I get my bonus, right? So there's just a man, it's just ridiculous. Education has just taken a ridiculous turn now, and I don't think that has anything to do with the Department of Education in DC, right? I think we at some point at a state level have to be the adults in the room again. You know, look, DOE, if you want to give me money, awesome. I appreciate it. I'll take all the money I can get. But I want all my daygum raffle money or lottery money. I want that back. I want, because I think we could fund our schools well and pay our teachers better, but then trust them to teach, right? And do what they went to college for. You know, Trip, you go to college, you get your degree, but that's not good enough. Then you got to come out and you have to take your general knowledge test, right? So, okay, take the general knowledge. Perfect. No, no, now you got to take your subject area test to make sure that you're really qualified to teach that in a classroom. Okay, take that test. Now, then there's a professional education test. So, we'll let you, stick around a classroom for 3 years. But then if you don't pass this professional education test, then I'm sorry, you got to go. What are we doing? I mean, if they wouldn't have gone to college to learn the subject, and let's face it, if we can get a teacher to stick around in a classroom for 3 years, good Lord, give them a bonus every year, right? Do whatever it takes.
Right.
Man, that you have found yourself a saint. Keep them, right? Pay them, pay the man, right? So, or pay the lady, whatever. We have got to just do better in so many and the thing is, it's not giant things, it's little things. But then it all, if there's a problem, follow the money, right? So is it the states receiving too much money from the testing sites? Because not only do they give, it's crazy in Florida, the same people that write the tests also write all the education things that like remedials. So if the kids don't pass the test, then all the remedial, all those intensive reading classes, all those intensive math classes that they sell you the curriculum for come from the same companies.
Right.
And
And
it's
it's going to
like,
be teaching to test again.
absolutely. And not only that, this company is making hand over fist money, right? Because now so I'm going to go, oh, crap, too many people passed. So what I need to do is ramp up this test a little bit so I can sell more intensive reading books. I can sell more intensive math books, right? And then when they do well, then I can crank it back down. And then, then school grades come out and administrators are happy because now I got an A and life is good again. And then, so it's almost like, what are we doing? It's like a shell game that we play um, between school grades and testing and teachers and teachers are tired of being a pawn in this game. And so, like you said, it's not about the money. Hell, you can make 50. I mean, you're starting teachers making 50K in Orange County. So, dude, you could do that as bartender, right?
You
It's
can
that's
do
damn
better than that as a
that's
bartender.
and I'm telling, that's damn near minimum wage anymore because minimum
Right.
wage is going to be what, $15? So it's like, and then I don't have to worry about little Timmy throwing a chair at me. I don't have to worry about little Susie's mom calling me at 5 o'clock at my house, wondering why the homework hasn't been graded yet. And it's like, we just, it seems like common sense stuff that we are not handling very well. And I just hope that maybe even the threat of closing the DOE might cause some people to go, oh, crap, we need to do better. 25 in the world isn't good enough. Maybe we need to really think about the things we can do to be 18. Look, we may never be number one again because look, we don't do recess anymore, right? We don't do. Why do we make little Timmy sit in that damn desk for 8 hours and not let him go outside and play anymore? That's crazy. Let little Timmy, because we all know boys need to move.
Right.
Let that boy go outside and have recess, and he
Play
will come back. His
dodgeball.
math scores will improve. And he had nothing to do with math. He just went outside and he moved. And I'm telling you, we have got to get back to the things that we were doing that made us number one. And I think if we would go back and do some of those little things, we would move up on the grid again.
So that's so much. It's everything you just said makes perfect sense to everything I think. So, for example, basically it was let's never waste a good crisis. So here we are. We're at this
Yes,
point in time where we're talking about closing the DOE. This fascination began with Ronald Reagan closing the DOE. He
right.
promised to close the DOE. And I was actually, like I said, I was a strange kid. I was into current events. I didn't know how to read, so I learned how to read by reading newspapers.
Absolutely.
So and I thought back then, the DOE, why is it in DC? But if you took the DOE today, turned it into 50 teams, you put each team in one state, and
Yeah.
they looked at the one state. Okay, so just like you said, okay, let's talk about recess. Let's just take it to the simplest point. If recess is dodgeball in New York City, it could be fishing in Arkansas. But are we
Oh,
even thinking of
absolutely.
wait, are we even thinking about that? Because recess is a vital part of the day. You come back to class reinvigorated. You've just played with your friends.
That's
You've
right.
just reopened your mind. But we're
That's right.
saying, no, we need to spend more time. Then you talk about the company that's producing the study material to pass the test they're producing. They're going
That
to make
they're
the study
producing.
that they're going to make the study material very effective to pass the test. It doesn't mean it's effective in teaching you the course. It means it's effective in making you pass the test and teach the test piece. The teach the test piece is all along. It's been going on now from. It's been the solution. So we take this, we've been talking about, we're talking about government. We're talking about whether it's a metaphor, it's a real department, the Department of Government Efficiency. When you think of efficiency, when you think of, you've just talked about somehow saving $3 trillion. You're going to cut, you're laying off government employees, you're closing departments. I don't know if it's $3 trillion, but if you were to take that money and use it efficiently to invest in our children, as the old saying goes, I don't know who holds tomorrow, but I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I know who holds tomorrow. The
Right.
return on investment is going to be the biggest piece of efficiency you've ever seen in history. So if we invest in, we take the Department of Education, we turn it into teams around the country. They look at the individual education system for each state. They they um, create it to fit that state. Like you have kids in New York who may want to learn about international law. You have kids in New York who may want to learn about world finance. Whereas you
That's
have
true.
kids in Montana who may want to learn about farming
That's right.
and ranching. So you've recreated you've now got 50 individual school systems, right? And so when you think of a company like Monsanto just taking over all the farms, these farms that have
Yep.
been people's family name for the since they started the first farm. Now the only thing these kids know to do is sell it to a big corporation. And then you talk about how the giant corporations are taking over everything. Well, you've just reversed that trend. If you're teaching these kids how to run the family farm and keep it, if you're
Right.
teaching these kids how to finance that robot operated equipment that Monsanto is going to come in with and show you how you were just spending 4 times the payroll they're spending and getting 5 times the production you were getting, but you show that individual farmer how to do it and how to go to the bank for the money to do it, you've just reversed the trend of big business consuming everything little guys used to do.
And
So we
you're creating individual wealth.
and you're creating individual wealth.
Absolutely.
So if you're a kid in Montana, you're not necessarily thinking, you know what I want to do when I get to high school? I want to work for Montana. I keep using them as the
Yeah, yeah,
corporate
yeah, I
example,
got you.
but
Yeah,
you're thinking,
they're the
my
elephant.
dad's had this farm for 50 years, and all he's talked about is how he's been going broke for the last 50 years. Now you get a new education to show him how to reverse that going broke and turn it into a dynasty. Think how you would feel about yourself. Think how your family would feel about you. Think of the success you would create. Think of the local. You would be the farmer that understood what it meant to work hard and not get much, and you would pay your employees better. Because this
Right.
whole trickle down theory, we're going to save $4.5 trillion, and we're going to give it to Apple, and we're going to give it to big companies, and they're going to pay their employees better. I've never seen that happen.
Never.
I've never seen trickle down, and I've never seen teachers get any sort of significant raises. Generally speaking, teachers don't even get cost of inflation raises. Forget about
Usually not.
significantly lifestyle raises. So we've never even tried that for size. So I'm not knocking this administration. Like I said, he is the Reggie Jackson of politics. He swings the bat harder than anybody. My
That's right.
feeling is when I look at him, it's not my Trump estrangement syndrome. I think he strikes out a lot. But
Yep.
that's okay. We can learn from these lessons. We can learn from this approach. And I just want to, I keep building on that theme that, yeah, there were some things that needed to be done and they were ugly, but not everything needed to be done at once. Not everything needed to be done last night. And
Right.
so,
We didn't, and I don't, I'm with you 100%. I don't think we need to take the Sherman approach to this, right?
right,
We don't need to slash and burn everything to the ocean. We need to see what's there, see what works, and then don't, I mean, if it doesn't work, just leave it alone. But sometimes we have to sometimes take things back to the foundation, right? To say, look, this is where we are, 2025, right? And these things I just don't think we're preparing kids to take a test, but we're not preparing them for, and I think my grandparents were smarter than I am, right? Now, I'm sitting here with I got what 3 degrees, right? But I think my grandparents who just finished high school were probably pound for pound smarter than I am, right? Because man, I don't know how to without Google, I don't know
right,
probably half the stuff my grandpa knew, right? And because he knew about farming, he knew about how to make his own soap. He knew how to can peas. He knew how to, and I'm sitting here, 21st century, and trying to teach kids, and I realize, man, um, without help, I really don't physically know anything, right? So I think that we need to take it back to that foundation and make sure that there are just things that we just know, right? 365 days in a year, 7 days a week, a pint is a pound, and just certain things that we need to get back to that we just know, 5,280 feet in a mile, right? Whatever. We just need to go
right.
back and get to what we did and what we did well. And don't say, my engineer is worth more than my plumber. If that's the case, you probably never had a clogged toilet in your house, right? No, because when that happens, you need that plumber as much as you do that engineer, right? So I think we just need to get back to doing, we sometimes to grow, we have to prune, right? So we need to prune off some of this crazy stuff and get back to what do we need to do to get better? And look, man, I'm too old to be thinking about what am I going to do to get better. But what I care about is what can I still contribute as as an older person to make the young people better? How can I make their lives better, right? Because dude, if they're not thinking about this AI, then because it's about to be a runaway train, I feel. And I don't know how many jobs are going to be out there. And so I need these kids to educate themselves, right? Or to make sure that they have this piece of paper at the end of the day, because I need to make sure that they're ready. Because a machine may take your job, but now I need you to know how to work on that machine, right? That machine is probably
Exactly.
going to break. So I need you to fix it, right? You don't have to, I talk about this, right? You don't have to invent the whole car, right? But if you could invent a replacement to the headlight, or if you even know how to replace the headlight, that's a job. If you understand how the brakes work, that's a job, right? If you can walk in a grocery store and realize that everything in there is a job, from the shelf to each can to the label to the print to how the lights get powered to the AC that runs the freezer, and you start thinking about what do I want to do? How can I contribute? Right. And so but we don't think like that. We just say, oh, damn, I'm at Publix. I need a sub. Right. So we don't, but we got to change about how we look at things, how we produce things. And I think we need to start doing that shit at kindergarten level, right? And getting these
Absolutely.
kids to start thinking about what am I going to be when I grow up? And then, okay, that's good. Now let's go outside and play for a minute and then bring them back in. And then we'll talk about math a little. Then we'll talk about science. And then, but that, what do I got to be or how can I contribute needs to be a part. Because I think one, we've been we're comfortable, right? We've been well taken care of. And sometimes I think that's the worst drug of all. And so, because we don't know how to act when we're uncomfortable, or we act crazy when we're uncomfortable. And I think we need to, one thing the military taught me was be okay with being uncomfortable, right? We need to kind of get back to that foundation where, if I'm uncomfortable, how do I fix it? And not expect the government to fix it or my boss to fix it or whatever. No, I can fix it, right? I want it to
Right.
be on me. I think that those simple lessons, if they're brought to the front, then I think you'll see a difference in our society, right? And how we handle business.
So, there's Admiral McCraven. He was the Navy SEAL admiral
Yes,
that
sir.
ran the team that got bin Laden. He does this incredible speech. It's called Make Your Bed.
Oh, absolutely.
Start your day by making your bed. Because if you can't do the little things in life, you'll never do the big things in life. So if you want to change the world, start your day by making your bed. But we do not. So when you think of that logic coming from this incredibly successful admiral, who was the all-time admiral at this point in time in
That's
our
right.
military history, and he's saying it just like you just said it. But we're saying it, me, you, and I guess Admiral Craven inadvertently is saying it, but
Right.
we're not teaching it. We're not leading kids to believe it. We're telling kids if you want to succeed, you've got to be the CEO of Apple. Well, you can't be the CEO of Apple if you
No,
can't pick up a phone and talk to your friend in a normal manner. Just
absolutely.
like you said, if you pick up the phone and you say, "What up, fuck nuts?" You're
Yeah,
not going to be a
absolutely.
successful person. So
Nope.
you don't need to be you don't need to be concerned with your future recreating the iPhone. You need to be concerned with your ability to communicate on the iPhone. And we're
Right.
not teaching that. We're not teaching any of that. And then we're leading you to the illusion that you're this grand success because
Yeah.
you've done very well on these placement tests. But
Yeah.
and then, it was Charles Koch in his book From the Bottom Up, where he talks about how he basically got it all wrong. He committed a $500 million to the Republican Party if they move on this conservative agenda. And he says, and now I realize it wasn't about that. There's so much more about it. How we've got kids that are extremely successful in Harvard that come to the corporate world and they don't know how to do anything.
That's right.
We've got to spend millions of dollars training them on basic life skills. Yeah, they understand all their curriculum, and so we've got all these mishaps happening. And then they wonder why there's these few people that slip past the goalie and succeed bigger than anybody. So Jeff Bezos is one of them. He recreated retail. But
Yep.
if we had taught more kids how to do that, there would be 140 Amazons, not just one.
That's
There
right.
would be, and people would be saying, I prefer this particular online store than I do this particular online store. But all we
Right.
really have is these. Google's another one. It used to be the yellow pages. Well, Google said, you pay for the click. If they're interested in your product, they're going to look right at. Well, there could have been 100 Googles. I mean, there is two or three, but one's Microsoft's Bing, and then
Right.
there's. So I just think if we spend more time making kids more realistic about spend more time teaching kids about, just like you say, dropping life on kids,
Yep.
teaching them. So, and I just think, like for me, so in my little piece of this world, I ran for office and I realized I'm not a politician. And, I used to tell people, because the first thing the DNC used to call me and say is, you have to raise money. And I used to say, I don't raise money, I raise awareness. I realized that the way I raise awareness now is through my podcast. So I found my way in what I wanted to do because I did have that sort of disadvantage, if you will. I wasn't your normal kid that bought into everything everybody threw at me. I was that weird kid that's questioned everything. So, and we need to start really encouraging more of that.
There's nothing wrong with with that kid that asks a lot of questions. In fact, I want him to come talk to me, right? Um, uh, I need him to I need him to understand that that's okay. You know, it's okay to be curious, right? Because a lot of times I've been said, "Oh, you bad. You're too busy. You're too, you ask too many questions." No, man, that's how we learn, right? And
Yeah.
we all learn different. And so, if you want to ask me 100 questions, ask me 100 questions. Now, we may not all be able to be done today. You may have to come ask me 10 questions for the next 10 days to get your 100 questions in, but I'm going to allow you to do that, right? And I think that we need to be willing to work with all these kids. And dude, this is why I do what I do, right? I'm not interested. My mom always said you should be a preacher, and I'm like, nah, that ain't no good. And then, because I curse too much, and then and then a lot of folks say, well, why don't you run for office? And I was like, no way, it's not what I want to do. I'm not interested in grown-ups, right? I'm interested in actually with people who still have the desire to make a change, or still know they can make a change before they have put themselves in so many boxes that they just can't get out, right? And if you can catch these kids early, man. So look, I say early, but dude, I've had kids up to 20 years old coming up and asking me about, hey, what do I do, right? What do I do now? Because I'm doing these, I did something, or I just need to get this high school peace coach. What do I got to do, right? So we just need folks who are willing to help the next generation be better and realize that we're not competing, right? I'm not competing with every kid that walks in my office. I'm not. I am trying to make you better, right? I'm not competing with you. Nobody at the end of the day is going to go, oh, poor coach, he made little Timmy better than he was. Oh, what a complete failure he was. No, I want Timmy to be better, right? I want Timmy to be successful. I want Sarah to be, and I think, with that we get into competitive, this whole competitive mindset where I'll teach you just enough where you can be curious, but I don't want to teach you everything I know because holy hell, then you'll be better than me. So what?
Be
Right?
better. Go
What?
be.
Be
Yeah.
better. Go make that money. Go do whatever, right? And I think that we just need to get into that mindset. And I think that's where in education, that's where we need to go, right? Is we want to make the next generation better, right? Look, bring back a moment of silence if you want. Make them stand for the pledge. Do what I don't care, right? Because kids are still going to do what they do. So, but if we start focusing on little things, because the kids I deal with, 17 to 19, right, are my kids, they really do want to be a part of something. And the thing is they don't really know what that is yet, So this is why I think, we have so many protests in the street because holy shit, there's something new. Let's go be a part of that, right? I'm gonna go wave this flag. No, I can't find this country on a map, but who cares? Let's go do that because it'll be cool, right? I didn't know I was gonna end up in jail. Just I think that kids want to be so much a part of something that they just do anything. And I think that if we as a school start to provide a little bit of structure, even if it is just that moment of silence or saying the pledge or whatever, it makes them feel like they're a part of something. You can have so much freedom that leads straight to chaos, right? So we need to still say, no, little Timmy, this is what we do as Americans, right? But then if you want to, but you have the right, of course, to go out and do whatever it is you want to do. But for like a lot of us, this is the way we feel. And if you'd like to be a part of this little group, come on, man, this is what we do, right? And if this isn't the right group for you, there's probably another little group right over here that'll be good for you. This is why we have the ag kids and the sports kids and the band kids and the chess club kids and whatever. We got the yearbook kids. And they all seem to what I like to use the term self-segregate because man, there's no other really way to put it, right? Kids find their
Right.
own, right? You go into the lunchroom and it's not about white, black, Hispanic. No, it's about kids finding their own, right? All the little nerdy kids are going to be sitting over here doing nerdy kid stuff. And all the jocks are going to be over here. And all the cheerleader girls are going to be over there doing whatever it is they do. All the chess players are going to be over here. And I think that we need to, as a country, right? We do need to find our own, right? We do need to find our own because right now I think we're easily distracted. Um, we are so I think we're so badly looking for leadership and we're so badly looking for um, a common goal that we're just grasping at anything that comes up,
We
you know?
are.
And
And that
so, and I think it's sad. I think it's sad we've gotten to that point. But I think it's like, okay, you have the freedom to do whatever it is, but then when you got 350 million people all doing different things, you get what we got today, right? So I think that's kind of where we are.
that's my hope is that from this, we'll just call it from this, from where
Right.
from this, we realize that a lot has gone wrong. A lot's gone right. I mean, a lot of people are going to say, I wish I were in America right now. A
Right.
lot's
Oh,
gone
absolutely.
right. But we do have some reconfiguring to do. And from this where we are today, I hope we do just like you said. I hope we recompartmentalize education to more of I think a 50 state thing. Individual states have individual concerns and challenges and interests and focuses. Take it and divide it into a 50 thing, and let them take it and divide it into a county or a community or a county thing, district thing.
Right.
But the overall one size there is no one size fits all to anything in America. There is no one
No,
size fits all solution to anything in America. And I think we hope to come to that realization. I hope we come to the realization that there's so many people that want to contribute to the solution. I hate this saying "Make America Great Again." I love the saying "Make America Greater." We are great. We've never fallen from the great category.
never,
Never.
never.
And making it greater could be the guy we despise working hard at what he believes that we don't believe in or we do believe in, but also finding common areas where we all agree we could do better and do it differently without the wrecking ball approach.
I think I would love to believe, and I'm really hoping I'm right, that most of us, a majority of Americans, really do want to contribute to our country. I think that sometimes with the media and I'm going to blame the far right. They want to show the I don't know, the 1% that are not getting up off the couch and going to work or whatever it may be. And so then they get their group all fired up, right? And then there's the far left people that say, hey, leave those people alone, right? They have the right to sit on the couch, right? Or do whatever. Um, and so I just think for the most part, though, there's a lot of us still left in the middle that believe that one, we are still a great nation, right? We are a nation of settlers that turned into a nation of immigrants, and that we are um, when we put our minds to it, we can win two world wars and keep everybody in their own spaces. I think that we are a great people, right? I was put it like this, Haiti and Cuba are only about 85 miles apart, but you ever notice that not many Haitians are trying to get there? Now they're trying to like hell to get out of Haiti, but they're not going to Cuba. right? So that must tell you a little bit about, socialism, communism, right? So that means we must be still doing something right. Just like the way we had 11 million people just walk in over the last couple of years. You can look at that a whole lot of ways. But what I look at it is, man, we must be doing something right if 11 million people from other places really want to be here. So that must mean that we are still the land of opportunity. We still are
Absolutely.
we are still great. Otherwise, people wouldn't want to be here. So if they didn't think they could come here and get a job, they wouldn't show up,
Mm.
right? So we don't we I think there's just so much that we could build on if we could stop just yelling at each other for a minute or going, oh, you don't agree with me, so you're just deplorable, right? I don't even going to talk to you. I'm going to unfriend you because you think that boys shouldn't compete in girls sports, so we're not friends anymore, whatever. So whatever their little take is on life. And I think that we need to just go, okay, I'm glad you feel that way, or whatever. I disagree, and then we can move on to the next topic, right? Because let's face it, whether little Timmy runs with Sally is not going to fix our any of our nation's problems, right?
No.
So we have to start to determine, okay, I hear you, but we really need to start talking about what the things that matter, right? Are we going to have enough? Are we going to have enough food to go around? Enough clean water to go around? Are we going to have, start at the bottom of the pyramid stuff? What about our housing problem, right? What do we need to do to make that affordable? Because we all know that businesses are in business to do one thing, and that's to make money. Bottom line. So you can make minimum wage $1,000 an hour, right? And a business is going to go, Roger that, $1,000 an hour. Now this pen just cost you 4 grand,
Right.
because
Right.
their business is still to make money, right? So we know that that is just a shell game with the minimum wage. So we need to what can we do, right? Maybe we need to come up with a maximum wage. I don't care how smart you are or what you do, but the maximum you can charge is $70 an hour. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the right answer is, but I'm just saying there are so many smart people in this 350 million that I really think that we need to stop shouting people down and listen to what they have to say because we are so busy listening to respond that we don't listen to listen. And I think that is listening has become a lost art because we're too busy wanting to be heard instead of wanting to listen. And I think once we get over that hump, then I think, many things will come after that.
So that's an incredible point you just made. That's going to lead us to, I'm going to leave us with this. Okay. I just want to
Okay.
let you know that I have now initiated, we're not there yet, where we're going to initiate a thing called Trip Talks. Kind of
Okay.
like TED Talks, but you can come to the realization, other than I've come to the realization I'll never be invited to do a TED Talk. So as the old saying goes, I created Trip Talks. If you can't go
Yeah.
move the mountain, go around it, or whatever the old
That's
saying goes.
right. Bring the mountain to Muhammad.
So I'm going to start emailing everybody that's ever been on this show and more people and inviting them to do an 18 to 20-minute thinking out loud session. And TRIP is actually an acronym. It is teaching reality, integrity, politics, and politricks. Tell me
Okay.
what's on tell me what's on your mind. And I will post it. I can't post some guy dropping the F bomb about
Absolutely.
anybody. But I
Absolutely.
will. It's going to come to me. It's going to come to my Dropbox, and we're going to offer that option to everybody that's ever been on it. I've I've interviewed you, who I think is an incredible successful educator. The four we had we had wow, everything Bill
Bill Matthias.
Matthias
Yeah.
had
Great guy.
and
The mayor of Mineola, for
Mayor
Pete's sake.
Mineola, and so I'm gonna send them. Let them. If you want to send me that video, and we're gonna do trip talks, right? Because I want to hear from everybody. And often I can't be there for that. I can't always schedule it. So I'm going to offer that option, get that word out there that this is something we're doing. And definitely you're going to get that email as well once we finalize everything about it. And we're also launching another website where we're going to hear from kids, not necessarily about politics, but about their hopes and dreams. And that's coming
Yes.
up. That's a little bit further down the road.
Oh, dude, that
So
would be awesome.
it's going to be great. I love it. I love where we've already got a good start on it. I'm just not putting out any details just yet, but it's great. We've got a good start on it. And we like you said, we've got 350 million super intelligent people. I read them all. I meet them all the time. I talk to them all the time. And if I'm not talking to them, I read about it. John Morgan, the lawyer in Orlando, which I'm sure you're familiar with the name,
Yeah, Morgan and Morgan.
he's he's launching his own political party, the Capitalist Party. I've sent him numerous emails, dropped off letters that his secretary assured me would go on his desk. I called the attorneys that are leading the charge to get the new party, the legal side of it done, and they've given me his personal cell phone number. So I've reached out to him via text as well. And I want to hear what he has to say because maybe it's the capitalist party. It's going to be the third party that finally prevails because the two-party system is a little bit not enough.
It
So
would be it would be different if they were closer together. But they're right now they're so diametrically opposed they can't even speak to each other, right?
right,
And
right.
so and the problem is there's 350 million of us, but the problem is there's like 200 million of us in the middle going, these mother are all crazy, right?
Absolutely.
I don't care about your gender politics. And over here, don't be talking to me about church. And I'm talking about government, right? So and there's enough of us. I actually I've talked to Mr. Morgan a couple times. He's a really, I mean, super smart guy, of course, but just fun.
Yeah,
I
he's a
think
cool
that
guy. Yeah,
yeah,
he's a
and
cool
I think
guy.
that if you're ever gonna find a guy who could pull it off, it could be him because he has the personality, he has the name recognition, he has a lot of the tools that you need to make it happen. So if he puts his mind to it, he could make it happen. I believe that.
I think he has put his mind to it. I mean, like he said, I've talked to the law firm he hired to put together the legal part of creating a third party. And the capitalist party is a great idea because it's center right. And that's where America leads, is center right. They
So,
not, I'm not, no one's conceded to Bernie Sanders. We're not having all conceded defeat that we need public housing, free education, everything free, free health care. I'm good with America the way it is. I want to work for what I have. And I like that center right approach, the capitalist party. And I love the name of it. I don't know what he has intended for it, but I would love to hear from him. So I definitely have got an A for effort for trying to get a hold of him. Um, so, and that's right. I really, it's funny that you just said about the whole thing about I don't want to hear. I was just before I started doing this podcast, I went on SupremeCourt.org and I was listening to the oral arguments of Mahmoud versus Taylor. I don't know if you know the case, but the case is about that it be mandatory that every kid has to sit in class when they're reading certain books. And in particular, I make the joke, little Johnny has two daddies. It's absolutely mandatory that they listen to this book. And the Democrats not only lost the case, you can opt out now, but the argument that the liberals I'm going to say the liberals, I'm not saying
yeah,
in a
I
condescending
understand.
term,
It's
but the
okay.
argument that the liberals were presenting is that the opt out option is going to be just a logistical nightmare for every school administrator. And then right in the beginning, when the conservative side argued the point, they said, but you're allowing opt outs for kids in choir to not sing certain religious songs. You're allowing opt outs for kids to not listen to certain books that reference the Prophet Muhammad. So you're
Right,
allowing opt outs, but you're just saying the only opt out you're not allowing is the books about
right,
homosexuality to parent that just so it was a bullshit story on the left, and that's what sort of brings some sort of disdain towards the left is these kind of absolute arguments.
right.
So I'm always ready for that center right approach. I'm not the extreme conservative by any means. There is no
No, nor am I. And it's weird because sometimes I get that moniker, but I'm really not.
I'm not
I'm
at
really a
all.
moderate guy.
I'm very moderate, but some things I still value. Hard work is one of them. Work hard, get what
Absolutely.
They say Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's partner who just died, says, to really be a strong investor these days. Back then, when he first said it, you need to get to the first 100,000, and then invest and stay invested. Well, today that figure's about 190, but work hard to get to that 190. Or like I said, there is that option of, instead of borrowing money to go to college, if you could show you're able to responsibly handle the money, we should have a government option for young people to start a small business and get a small business loan. I love that idea, but that's a capitalist approach, which I really
Right.
love.
Absolutely.
So,
And
so
that means
that's
I'm going to trust you, that you have the skills that you say you do, right?
right, right. So
And,
there could be some
and
sort
before
of
I give you this money, I might want to see your business plan.
your
Show me
business
that you
plan
put some effort into it.
and your understanding. And did you do some certain courses through high school that would bring this understanding to
Absolutely.
fruition? So I love that kind of thing. So we're going to continue doing that. Those emails are going to go out before you know it. That we're going to try to get some people, test pilots at least in the next 90 days. I really hope to have to have some trip talks
That'll be
to.
great.
I did too. I did my own. I did one on Iran recently. I'll send you the link when it's out. And
Okay.
I did, yeah, I'll send you one link that is out, but I didn't call it a trip talk, but it was essentially the first trip talk. So,
All
so I'll
right.
get those to you. But Daryl, you are amazing to have as a guest. You're amazing to have as a friend. I really love having you in my universe, and I really appreciate whatever I call you, you're there for me. So I hope I hope you're having a great day today, because I really had a good day today having be
Oh,
able to
dude, I
chat with
tell you,
you.
man, these are always wonderful. I enjoy speaking with you. I think it's crazy, because I think we are I mean, we're way more alike than we are different, right? And so
In
I
so
think if
many
most people
ways.
would just sit down and talk to each other, you would find out you're way more alike than you are different, right? And I
Right.
just think that that message is important. And hopefully through this podcast, they can understand. Hey man, those old guys, they're not out to get me. They're just out trying to make me better, right? So hopefully, they can get to that. Man, I love you. I really love what you do, and I really appreciate you giving me the time.
Thank you so much, Daryl. Like, share, subscribe, comment. Daryl Blackhall, President, Chief Operating Officer of Orlando Workforce Academy. I'm Coach Trippy, uh, with Political No Brainer. Talk to you soon. Thanks, Daryl.
Absolutely. Thanks, bro.
Good night. Thank you. You're awesome.